Thank you, Anna. One of the takeaways that I need to take away from this meeting is to figure out how to use the golden rule, how to treat AI like I want AI to treat me, how to love AI in a way that I want AI to love me. But anyway, we can talk about that later. So it's a great pleasure to be here in this lovely city with all you lovely people. My story, as Emmer said, is actually very short, but can be very long depending on how it's told. The short version is I spent 27 years in one company in the same industry in which most of you are. A lot of my success or failures in my professional life and over those 27 years were driven by technology. So I was an early adopter of technology, e-commerce, social media, all of these nice things. I was lucky enough to be in China in 2008 when all of these things were exploding. So as this wave rose, I rose with it. And as a result, I was able to achieve my ambition of retiring at 50 to start doing something totally different. Now, therefore, I have a lot of experience on one hand, but on the other side, I have zero experience as well, because after I retired and in the happy position of doing exactly what I want in life or nothing at all, sit on the beach in Barcelona if I choose, therefore, I'm doing whatever I'm doing for the sheer pleasure of it. But the key learning I took out of those 27 years was there are waves in the world and there are trends. And if you are at the right place at the right time, like I was in the wave of e-commerce, which I think is yesterday's trend, by the way, but there are trends that are coming tomorrow. So since I can do exactly whatever I want, let me go back to becoming a student and try and understand what I think these trends are, how the world will be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, so that I can start doing things today. It takes 5 years to 7 years to create a new startup. So by the time those trends are secular and well established, hopefully I will have achieved something. And I also had another twist to the tale, and the twist was never again do I want to have anything to do with physical products. So I'm looking for products and services that scale digitally. So this obviously makes it easier to scale, even though it may be more difficult to build. So this made me then go back and start talking to, I spent a year trying to form my own view of what are the trends in the world. And that led me down this rabbit hole of all these funny, funky things like AI, crypto, the metaverse, and I really geeked out for a long period of time. But what I'm going to try and do is distill some of what I found. Now, this is my reality. It may not be yours. All of it may not be accurate. Some of this is an opinion. I have a slightly dystopian view of the future world, which you'll see. You may or may not agree with it, but just take it as one person's view. I've tried to talk about AI in a way that can show you some examples of how you can use AI to transform both professionally your companies, but also personally your lives. And rather than going into the details of how AI works, which I think is highly boring and highly commoditized, by the way, because who cares, right? You don't ask your phone how it works, it just works. You're focused on how to use the apps. So in a sense, I'm going to talk about how to use the apps in the world of AI, assuming that the AIs kind of exist, which they do, right? So what are we going to talk about? The future, the way I see it. We'll talk about AI in business. We'll talk about AI and you. And then in the end, I'm going to leave you with about 105 tools, AI tools, which I've personally used and which I think are great, right? And so we won't cover that. And I've got lots of stuff on the charts. I'm going to skip some of it because otherwise we'll be hopelessly out of time. I have this bad habit of talking too much, okay? So don't worry if we just zoom through something and I don't explain it. We can discuss it in a break. So what is the future? One definition of the future is a place where AI runs everything. Now, this is not how we think of the future. And we think about AI in the terms of this whole generative AI thing. But let me give you another paradigm of AI. So think about the concept of a corporation. So what is a corporation? A corporation is an entity in law. That means a company's board of directors or executive team can make a decision that can have real world agency, right? And a company can be sued. So a company is like a person. Yes, it can't go to jail, that's kind of difficult. But other than that, in law, a company can have a bank account. So in theory, if you as a board of, or your company, the board of directors decided to pass a resolution and make an electronic payment to a digging machine and say, let's go and dig up Ramblas in Barcelona, a digger will show up and start digging. Now, supposing that decision by that company is made by an AI. So now what's happened? An AI has gained real world agency and is able to impact people in the real world. And that is very much the definition of a company. And the more that companies get influenced or run by AI, the more AIs will reach out of the digital world into the real world and impact your lives. Now, before you tell me that this is all nonsense and this will never happen and regulation will never allow it, the truth is it already happens. So let me give you a few examples. Let's say you are in a fulfillment center for Amazon or someone like that. There is an AI that is tracking how many steps you take, what is your productivity, exactly what have you done, how many breaks have you taken. And AI is optimizing human resources for the eventual end goal of maximizing production. And there have been cases, which have been reported in the press, of AI-generated letters being sent to the bottom 10% of a warehouse's operations by some large companies, saying to the family that your better half works in XYZ company's warehouse and is in the bottom 25% and could lose a job. And this is true. It's already happened, actually 3 years ago. If you think about another example of AI optimizing human effort to achieve a prime directive, take an example of any social media company. Let's take an example of Facebook. So Facebook has an AI whose core is to optimize revenue. This AI somehow, through trial and error, after many years of not knowing, having a economic model, has figured out that when people click on something that leads to content or advertising, there is some minuscule amount of money that gets deposited in Facebook's bank account. So now what is this AI doing? It is just treating all of humanity like monkeys on a keyboard clicking away. Now, how do you make a monkey click on a keyboard? By showing them things that make them emotionally excited, positive or negative. So these AIs are riding your attention as a human being and are exploiting you to create actions which then generate revenue in the real world. And that's how social media works. That's why TikTok is so addictive. So this is not the future, this is today. What makes an AI good? It's not really the quality of engineering, because I think that's quite commoditized these days. It's not how many engineers you have. It's not necessarily even how much processing power you have, because eventually someone or the other will invest the money and then they'll need a return, so they'll lease it to everybody else for free, like OpenAI does. It's more about the scale and quantity of data that you have to train. Now, who has large data? It typically is large companies. So your Facebooks, your Amazons, but also your Alibabas and your Tencents and your WeChats. But who has even more data? Tesla. Every single car has 8 cameras which are constantly gathering data. The government, all governments have data. So the moment you have AI starting to run on this data, they get better and better and better. And the more the data and the more the feedback loops and the faster the whole process, the better the AI gets at predicting what you want. So who have the biggest data? It's large companies. So today you are negotiating with large companies, but in future you will find yourself in a situation where you as an individual are negotiating with the government. So when you are talking with, like I live in London, so my tax bill, if I have to dispute it, I'll be disputing it with an AI at some point of time. So you are going to live in this world, whether you like it or not, where AIs are all around you. These AIs have physical agency and they impact your life. And we'll come later where you have a digital presence and you interact with these AIs in a digital world as well. So the worlds will blend and these things will become more and more critical. Humans, like I said, become an input variable to be optimized by an AI which is pursuing a larger goal. Actually, it's a smaller goal, but the AI thinks it's a larger goal, which is mostly to make money. But also AI allows you to scale crazy things. So each human can have a co-pilot. each of us can exchange our data for the pleasure of having a co-pilot who basically is trying to optimize the world for our needs. So, and this again has already started. In fact, Microsoft already has a co-pilot, which is starting through your Microsoft Office subscription, but eventually the aim is that this co-pilot will be with you in everything you do in your life, whether it's shopping, whether whatever you think of. And you have long-term goals, short-term goals, immediate goals. This AI has access to your calendar, it has access to the whole internet, and it can actually find things for you to do to get to your long-term goal and put them on your calendar and then give you a reminder. So all of these things, if you allow them, will happen to you. If you don't allow them, you're competing with people who are assisted with co-pilots all the time, and you're going to get crushed anyway. So you might as well allow them, right? So what's going to happen with all this? Well, the productivity of the world will go up. Because the thing with AIs is that there is very little marginal cost. Once you have an AI that's working, it's going to keep giving you input, and if you're a company, everything is running with AI, your costs come down, you need fewer people, so your productivity goes up. So tax revenues are up, the economy is up, and assuming the climate doesn't kill us all, everything is nice and hunky-dory. But in this world, people will suffer, and we'll come to some of this suffering in a bit. People will lose jobs, people will find jobs which are more menial, people will lose worth in their work. Governments will struggle with this because on one hand, so governments are responsible for physical needs, but also mental and emotional needs of the citizens. So governments need to make sure that their people are secure, otherwise there'll be riots in the streets. So how do governments do that? Well, the starting point is for rich countries like this one, or the UK, even though you don't think they're rich, but they are compared to developing markets. You will have things like more focus on universal basic income and stuff like that. So now people will take this universal basic income, go back to their council homes. If you've ever been to a council house, you'll see that there is always one, not always, often one large piece of kit, which is a large TV. Why? Because you can be in your council house, but you can disappear into some fantasy world on TV. Well, guess what? You're going to put on your Apple Vision Pro or equivalent and disappear into some metaverse or some immersive reality or the other. And over a period of time, you will realize that you're spending more and more of your time in virtual worlds, whether that is a virtual world on Zoom or on Teams or on Apple Vision Pro or on something else. And these virtual worlds, you will realize, is where you're getting entertained, but you're also spending more and more of your money on digital goods and digital currencies. And I don't mean this by saying you'll buy Bitcoin, but I'm just saying that you will find yourself buying more and more virtual things and less real things, relatively. And as that happens, you will also find yourself with lots of time in these worlds, and you will realize that you can make money here. And a lot of these people who are disenfranchised in a sense, but they may have something that they're particularly good at. So I may live in London and I may know all about the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I can go back and put on my glasses and I can be a tour guide in this virtual world in Italy. I can be Superman or Spider-Man. I can do anything I want. So in a sense, it's terrible that you're in this world, but in a sense, it's hugely liberating for people who do that right. So what's going to happen then is humans, in a sense, will retreat, but also expand into these virtual worlds. There will be all kinds of virtual worlds, right? You can decide to live on Mars, you can decide to live in Italy, you can decide to live in Barcelona, excluding the weather, even though you may really be living in London. You can be who you want to be. You can live and work anywhere. So you can visit places, but the requirement to be a citizen and to live in the US, to work in the US may not exist anymore. Because I don't know how many of you have tried the Vision Pro, but I have, and if you put that thing on, you have real presence. So supposing you were sitting in America and I had this Vision Pro on here, I get the same feeling of presence that I have with you here.
I'm not here.
You're not here. You're far away. And this will become more and more common, right? So it's going to become, so this whole immigration debate will become quite interesting. Oops. Now in this world, we are sitting, think about a world a few years from now, we are all sitting in a virtual world and we're having this conference virtually. All of us are actually sitting at home with these dorky glasses on. We think we are sitting here, and we look around to that chair and say, "Hey Google, how's the weather?" And suddenly Google appears on the chair, as real as you are here, like Google is appearing on a billion chairs around the world, and Google says, "It's a great day in Barcelona." So in this world, you will not be able to differentiate that AI from that human. And in this world, because Google can be in a million places at the same time answering a billion questions, or maybe it's ChatGPT by that time, these AIs will be like gods in this metaverse. And you will not know who is an AI and who's a real person. Like I said, you will earn and spend your money in this world. And this world is not far away. For people who really want to be in this world, they can be in this type of world today, the next 2 years. For people who don't want to be in this world, they will have no choice 5 to 10 years from now. In this world, what is valued? What is valued are your skills in this virtual world. What can you create? What value can you add? Yes, your skills in the real world may be valued as well, but a lot of those jobs may have become automated by then. So what will happen to humanity? In my opinion, humanity will co-evolve with AI. So AI will evolve, and so will humanity. So what will happen? We, of course, will have many older humans. Our basic needs through productivity will be more resolved than they are today. Not everywhere, but what is impossible today will become super easy. So at the end of this session, I have a little demo, and it's not perfect, but I'll just show you how you can do a lot of things very fast. Maybe at poor quality to begin with, but by the time all of this gets good, the quality will also improve. Every child who's born today will have AI in their workflow from birth. They will not have seen a world where ChatGPT is not at their beck and call. Imagine what those kids are going to be able to accomplish when they grow up. And imagine that curve of change that's coming. Relationships will always continue to be central, because humans are people who work on relationships, but they will be facilitated in a sense by AI. So all of us will have CRMs. All of us will be told by our CRM when we last interacted, when we last posted on LinkedIn, Lauren. Things that are repetitive will all be automated. The question is, of course, as we go forward, what happens to spirituality? Is there some AI that actually gets to that level of mentality? Who knows? If you read science fiction, you believe that that can be done as well. Today, scalable factors of production are money, land, people. So in the old world, if you had money, every dollar bill you have, it's like a little dollar bill who's working very hard every day to create more dollar bills for you. So if you have $1 million bills, you've got 1 million of these little guys sitting in the bank, all of them reproducing and basically making more dollar bills, right? The thing with AI and the world of the future is that AIs and bots will be similar. Every human will have bots. And depending on how many bots you have set up to do how many tasks, these things will be automated. And all of those things can make you money, or they can all make your life easier. And how rich a person is will be defined, of course, by how much money you have in the bank, but also how many bots are autonomously working for you while you sleep all the time. Many bot slaves will imply rich humans. So if you don't know how to program a bot, now is the time. Then you can ride the compounding journey. Our skills that we are so proud about, the skills I got from 27 years in my company, they are valid today, but they will get less important as time goes by. And therefore, I need to learn new skills. Now, anybody who's in IT knows that you have to, or medicine, knows that you have to retrain all the time. Marketers are somehow more arrogant. They're like, we have a great insight on how the world works. We've been trained once and we never have to be trained again. Well, those days are all gone, right? Everyone has to be trained all the time. Technology will be embedded in everything. It'll become invisible. It'll just disappear into the background. AI will be in everything. So as a human being, you will expect every need to be met. So in a world of AI, eventually if AI is physical, I could sit down here and a chair would appear under me. And if a chair did not appear and I fell to the ground, I would feel so irritated about the bad customer service of that AI that did not appear. So your expectations as human beings will change completely. You will expect everything that you do to be pandered to be created, and therefore customer satisfaction will be totally different. Everything is expected to be anticipated and personalized. When you walk out of here, your AI should call your Uber, so it's waiting for you. And when you are in the Uber while you're going home, then if you like shopping, then the right offer should appear on your phone. And when you get off at home, the door should open by itself, and the coffee should go on, so that when you sit down to drink the coffee, the robot arm has just kept it on the table. And if that does not happen 10 years from now, you feel, shit, this is a really crappy piece of technology, it did not work. Design of everything obviously will change, every process will change, every product will change. So again, here's the opportunity to learn at this time so you can influence design. So what happens to business in this world? Well, guess what? It needs to be reimagined. And you can reimagine it at the top or at the bottom. So we'll come to this in a minute. All businesses eventually will be run by AI. Because if it is not run by AI, you will be competing with somebody who is running the business with a combination of AI and humans. And you will find yourself unable to compete because your cycle time will be too slow. So unless you do this, you will not really survive. And you must reimagine this. We'll come to this in a minute. But first, before all of this funky stuff happens or does not happen, I mean, depends on how you see the world, there's a very basic question. What is AI? So there's this whole hype about AI is going to change everything. We are going to reach the singularity. AIs will become gods. I've just said that a while ago. There's this world where AIs will be more important than humans. But what is AI today? Actually, in reality, technically, we are still very far from a singularity. So what is AI? AI is like a trained monkey today. Why do I say that? Because what AI does is only one thing today. Even generative AI, if you read how it works, the only thing it is doing is predicting the next likely word in a string of words. That's all it does. That's it, nothing more. So based upon a training data set which includes more or less the entire internet, the AI is able to predict what is the most likely or the best next word with some levels of probability distributions. And based upon that, it can continue to build word after word after word. And as humans, because this is done in a way which is very feasible and plausible based on the previous word, it all seems to make sense, and we think, oh, this AI has suddenly got sentient and it can do all these cool things. But really, the AI doesn't know what it's doing. All it's doing is it's like you're walking on a bridge and you're just putting the next rung up and the next rung and the next rung, and you're just continuing to walk, and eventually you reach the other side. But from somebody looking from underneath, you're seeing this magical thing which just seems to be walking on air. So that's what AI does. If you think about scaling complexity, historically, what are computers? Computers used to be those ones and zeros that you see. So just manipulating ones and zeros allowed computers to do all these complex mathematical calculations. Now think that instead of manipulating ones and zeros, you are manipulating words and sentences. That is a whole degree more complexity and a whole degree more capability. So with only ones and zeros, if computers could achieve all the things that computers can achieve today, when they start manipulating words and sentences, imagine how much more could they accomplish. So it looks like AI is doing a lot, but actually it's not doing so much at the back. But we don't really care about that, because the only thing we care about is how to use it to do a lot in our lives. Is AI intelligent? Well, there are some questions about intelligence, right? So what is intelligence? Intelligence is something that learns by doing. So AI learns by doing. Intelligence is something that is about prediction. So if you can predict something, there is some level of intelligence. AI can predict. So there is some intelligence there. So it can do things that previously only human intelligence can do. So yes, AI is intelligent, but it is not alive yet, right? And there's this whole discussion about, will AI replace men and women and humanity totally, right? So will we all lose our jobs? Is it all going to be a complete disaster? Well, the way you need to think about it is like these two quotes. It's not man versus machine. It's man with machine versus man without machine. You can think of AI like a horse and rider. So data and intuition are like a horse and rider. You don't try to outrun a horse, you ride it. Right? And that's the thing with AI. There's this very famous thing which says, actually let me say this. So there's a factory of the future. The factory of the future will have a man and a dog. Why will the man be there? Any idea?
Feed the dog. Feed the dog. Yeah.
To feed the dog. Why will the dog be there?
Keep the human company.
No? No? Yes, to prevent the man from touching the machine. So the factory of the future will have two employees, the man and a dog. The man will feed the dog will be there to keep the man from touching the equipment. So there is this view that AI is going to completely replace us. But is that really true? So let's take a very specific example to just think this through. So you know this famous story about the London taxi cab drivers. So they've done autopsies on these people, their brains, and figured out that there is a part of their brain which is like bigger than anybody else in the world. And why is that? Because London taxi cab drivers used to have to, or still probably have to, pass this test where they need to know whatever it is, 25,000 streets. And this is a 4-year thing. And in the process of learning it, their brain gets physically bigger. So you cannot really compete with these people, right? So what happens to London taxi drivers when Uber appears and suddenly there's a sat-nav on every car? You can see them there. So what happens to the London taxi drivers? Well, the reality is you may lose some London taxis, or some of them may lose some of their revenue, but there is a whole bunch of other jobs that get created. So nobody was an Uber driver before an AI in a phone allowed you to do what a London taxi driver could do. If you look at the total number of cabs in London, Uber plus London taxi driver, it's more than doubled or tripled. So in overall, has implementing an AI-based solution destroyed the act of driving a taxi in London? No. Has it impacted taxi drivers, previous taxi drivers negatively? Yes. But there are new taxi drivers with different skills, and this skill is about looking at a sat-nav and driving, but nothing about expanding the size of your brain, right? So AI will empower some humans and it will disempower some other humans. There will be changes in every job, and we have to rethink about how these jobs and this division of labor between humans and machines. And this will destroy some industries and jobs and create new ones. In another story, I mean, if you go back in history, there used to be lots of accountants in the US. And these people were doing all these accounts manually. Then along came spreadsheets. So now you could actually do all these accounts with spreadsheets. So why do you need the accountants? What happened to the accountants? Did they disappear? No. What happened was the spreadsheets became tools for accountants to actually then do some more value-added work. So you could have that scenario as well, where AI gives you the tools to actually up you in the value continuum. So if you think about what humans do and what AIs do, so the way this chart is structured is human, what humans are better at, AIs, and then human and AI. So if you think about ability to scale, humans have limited ability to scale. I have just one of me, there is only so much I can do. But if I was an AI, I could be in every room at the same time, every computer, so I could scale much faster. Humans rely on intuition, AIs rely on data. Now, in reality, if the AI has never experienced something before, it's likely to make a mistake. So, but humans are very good at these heuristics. So what you want to do is, in an organization, you want to have humans overseeing when there is dramatic change, but everything that can be automated can be run with AI, right? So it's human plus AI. Humans are better at prediction if it's new. AIs are better at prediction if it's been done before. If you think about judgment, can you trust an AI judgment? Where cost of failure is high, you don't want to trust an AI judgment. So take an example of Facebook. It's got some of the best AI capabilities in the world. Think about moderation on Facebook. If you get it wrong, you're screwed. You're hauled in front of the US House of Representatives, and then you're asked all these intelligent questions which you have to answer. And the cost of that is just too high. So that's why Facebook has tens of thousands of humans who take those decisions after an AI has looked at it, because if the AI gets it wrong, you cannot explain it away, right? It looks like a small decision of removing a post or removing President Trump from Twitter. It looks like a small AI decision, but it's got huge consequences. But where the cost of failure is low, it doesn't matter. Then run it through AI. If there is a 5% error rate, who cares? There's no cost. Humans are better at data gathering where it's sensitive, because governments will not allow sensitive data to be mass industrialized because of regulatory reasons. So you need humans there. So healthcare data, you need humans. Better at action. If it's difficult to automate, then humans are better at action. But if anything can be automated, whether it is physical or online, AI is better. So in future, it's going to be quite easy to automate road building. So it's likely that a lot of that will be done by AI. If you think about mining, there are deep mines where there are not many people, and a lot of it is already automated, and that can all be run by AI. You don't have humans going down anymore. And that is actually not as far as you think it is. So, but there are some things which seem very simple for humans. For example, Amazon, which is so good at all this AI stuff, but everybody struggles to just replace the human for picking up and packing. So if you think about Amazon warehouses, today you've got AIs which will bring these trolleys to a human who has to pick and pack. There have been competitions for the last 5, 6 years, 10 years maybe, which are about developing the best AI-driven picking and packing tools, and AI has not cracked it, and it will take time. And AI still struggles to do something which is very basic for humans. Driving. AIs can do it, but it's still questionable at this point. Let's take this discussion to the company, right? So how should you as a company think about implementing AI? And I'm going to try and share with you a framework that lets you think at various levels of what the company does. So if you think of that as the company, that's the company boundary, and we'll come to this concept of boundary in a minute. There are inputs to the company and there are outputs from the company. And then in the middle, you have how the company processes the inputs to become the outputs. And that goes through strategy. The strategy leads to kinds of jobs. The jobs lead to specific tasks. The tasks lead to workflows. So Morgan, I think it's Morgan Stanley, or one of these companies, basically said that if you think about the whole process of raising money, there are 156 tasks. And if you can get these tasks and whatever number of workflows automated, then you can automate that process, right? So in a sense, if you automate every workflow, you can automate the process. So what is strategy? Strategy are the choices that you make to convert input to output. Jobs are your key organizational building blocks. Tasks are specific things you do to implement on that strategy. And then workflows are repeatable processes in your company. So this is all very boring. So let me just explain this as an example with Tesla. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to look at my phone because I keep forgetting some of these things. So Tesla, in a sense, their mission, and I'm paraphrasing here, is to minimize the impact on environment of cars by shifting the world to electric cars. Do that by delivering the best experience for consumers, by delivering everything a gas car does, plus a better experience in an electric car. That's how they started off, right? And to begin with, the legend goes that the reason Elon Musk wanted to start Tesla was because he thinks humanity is doomed and they need to move to Mars, and in Mars you will have no gas, so you need electricity. Okay, so kind of, if you think that I was talking about far out stuff, then think about this guy. So anyway, so that's your strategy or your mission. What are your jobs? So to make this happen, you have a job of design, marketing, building awareness, R&D, sales, service, PR. And then if you think about tasks, tasks are things like designing new models of cars, or managing a vendor supply chain, or manufacturing the car in a plant. And then if you think about workflows, workflow is a specific workflow for if you think about customer service, workflows may be delivering on-air updates, or it may be managing inbound calls, or making outsourced service calls, specific, very specific things. So if you think about how all of this works, you can transform in various ways. So the first thing is you can make your workflows happen much more efficiently at the bottom. So you can use AI to automate your calls. You can make AI to automate your rollout of your software product, whatever. A lot of established companies like the ones in this room are thinking about AI for this at the moment because the risks are too high above. Then if you think about the task level, right? Hang on. So if you, at the bottom, if you use AI on your workflows, you can execute better. But in life, as I'll give you an example with Tesla, you can use AIs to change your strategy. And if you can do that, then the impact is much bigger. It's also much more disruptive to the company. And we'll come to how you can do this, some of this. So an AI first company, so a company that's starting out new, like the new startup that I'm building, I don't want to have a company that has too many people. I want to have a global company with 20 people. That's it. I want to be able to be downloaded eventually by 1 billion phones with 20, 30, 40 people. That's it. My supply, my customer acquisition needs to be driven by AI. My fulfillment needs to be driven by AI. And these two AIs basically need to balance in a way that makes me money. And I'm going to spend a lot of time focusing on getting those AIs right. But if I was starting the same company in a world without AI, I would be thinking about building teams in every country. I would be thinking about building lots of logistics, infrastructure. I don't need that anymore. So an AI first company will start with AI built into the strategy. Existing large companies will struggle with that because that's too much disruption. You've got 50,000 people who are doing payroll. You don't want to move that to AI because now suddenly you will have one person doing payroll. And what about the 49,999 people who were doing payroll? What do you do with them? Difficult question. Companies can answer that and find ways to solve this and save the money, but it may take a lot of time, right? But also it's something that not everybody in the company can do. So people who are at lower levels in the company can absolutely start working on workflows and tasks and eventually automate a job. So today there are AIs which are like marketing role AI. So you can hire an AI product manager or you can hire an AI content creator. And these are like employees in the sense that you can give them a task and you can give them KPIs for the month and they will deliver. And basically there'll be one person in that outsourced team who is managing 50 such bots for 50 different companies. And yeah, you can do that today. So if you want, I can give you links and you can just hire AI marketers. Now, will they be as good as marketers today? Probably not. In 5 years, will they be as good? They'll be better. Because eventually it's about data and it's not about opinion. So now if you think about an example of how you can think about reinventing the company. Let's take an example of the same example I talked about, Tesla. So now Tesla, let me read this out again. The aim is to minimize the impact on environment of cars by shifting the world to electric cars. Do that by delivering the best experience for consumers and by delivering everything a gas car does plus a better experience. Now let's say if you are changing the strategy, how can AI help you change the strategy? Well, first of all, there's a fundamental dilemma. You know, every year there are 75 million cars sold. On an average, cars have a life of 10 years. So there is a stock of 750 million cars in the world. On an average, how much time do you think a car remains idle in a day?
90%.
Very good, 95.12% actually. The average car, 95.08. The average car is driven for 1 hour or abouts in a day. So this means that if the cars drove 24 hours fully, if you could allocate the cars that way, then instead of 750 million cars, you only need 37 million cars globally, right? Now, but driving a car for 24 hours is too much. Let's assume that you're going to drive the car for 12 hours. So now you need 75 million. If you're going to drive the car for 6 hours, which is more reasonable, you need 150 million cars. Now, because you're driving the car so much more, the life will be less. So instead of 10 years, it's going to be 5 years, right? So now when you actually add those numbers up, basically you need 150 million cars with a 5-year life. So basically you need 30 million cars sold a year. You used to sell 75 million cars. Tesla can currently produce about 2 million cars. So that is a market share of very small amount of 75 million, and they have to build a lot of capacity. But on 30 million cars sold a year, if this model could work, then Tesla already has a production capacity of 15% of the world's car requirement. So now, if Tesla could find a way to create a robo-taxi, which you would have heard of, which allows the car to be used for 6 hours in a day. This could actually, without adding too many more factories, reduce the number of cars in the world by something like 70%. And how much more of an impact would this have on their global strategy or global mission of reducing the impact of cars on the world? Much more than electrification. And to do this, why can't they do it today? Well, they can't do it because there are some uncertainties. So the uncertainty is cars can't drive by themselves today, right? That's one uncertainty. The second uncertainty is you have a mismatch between supply and demand. So consumers will be willing to do this, providing a car will show up in 30 seconds, which Uber does show up in 2-3 minutes, right? But not everywhere in the world. So these uncertainties are the exact kind of challenges that AI solves. AI is what? It's a prediction machine. So the moment AI improves to the point where it can predict traffic or predict the behavior of the road enough for cars to auto drive, and the moment AI is good enough to predict needs of customers of where a car is needed around the world, the robo-taxi idea becomes viable. In this world, what happens to the boundary of your company? You're no longer a taxi company, car company. You're now a taxi company. But no, you're not. Because today cars are sold in the world, sold by the car or leased by the car. In the world of the future, cars will be leased by minute of your time, right? And therefore the whole dynamics and economics of this model change. So whoever cracks this and manages to use AI to disrupt at the top, at the strategy level, can change the industry. Another quick example, think about Amazon. So what Amazon does today is the model is called shop, then ship. So you buy your stuff and then Amazon ships it to you. But a future model, if Amazon was very good at predicting exactly what you want, the better model is ship, then shop. So Amazon sends you whatever they think you need. Whatever you don't need, you send back. And this actually is an ongoing project. As in, the only reason that they haven't done it is because currently the prediction accuracy is between 5 and 10%. But if it gets to about 40 to 50%, this model is a much better model. It's better for the environment. It's also much better for the consumer. And you can set your KPIs that say, I want to spend a maximum of this much, blah, 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 and stuff will just arrive. And if you don't like it, send it back. Now, in this world, if Amazon were ever to do that because they have so much better prediction through AI, then they would structure the company differently. There would be a lot of focus on reduction of cost of goods sold sent back. There would be a lot of different tasks in Amazon than they have today that are important, right? So how you implement AI in the organization depends on whether you start at strategy or jobs or tasks or workflows. What are you automating? And the higher you are in that pyramid, the more of an impact, but the more of a disruption. And to do that, you need to have a fundamental challenge which can be improved by better prediction. If you have, for example, the Tesla challenge of predicting demand, or the Amazon challenge of predicting exactly what people will need, if you can solve that problem, then you can make a massive transformation. So who should lead AI? Well, actually, it should be led by the C-suite. So this is not about delegating this to someone in IT, because if you are clear that, okay, I just want to automate a process of sending an email, yeah, you can delegate that to someone in IT. But if you want to think about how AI can make an impact to your whole company, a bigger impact, then you want to think about this. So you can choose the right AI tools to reduce the uncertainty. You need to identify what is the core trade-off in the business model which can be influenced by reducing uncertainty. And then that means evaluating strategy, jobs, task, workflow. And the higher up in that pyramid you impact, the more cost saving you're going to have and the more effective the company will be. But you will end up with people needing to do different jobs. So it's risky. Also, all of us should have a strategy. If you don't have it today, then go back. If there's one thing you take away from here, put up in your risk matrix, put an AI risk strategy. The biggest risk, which is not on this page, should be there, is not doing AI. If you don't do AI, you're screwed, right? So then if you do AI, there are risks like wrong predictions, past data, discrimination. AIs can end up with bias. There can be interrogation and IP theft. And you need to learn destructive behavior. You can train AIs to say racist things if you're not careful. all of these things you need to include in your BCP and risk assessment and so on. So this is as far as business is concerned. Now let's go very quickly to a slightly different thing about how you can use AI to transform your personal life. So how can you use AI to implement it in your personal life and workflow? So there are three things here. So we'll talk about prompt engineering very quickly. How many of you know what prompt engineering is? Okay, some of you do. Then we'll have some examples, and then I'll leave you with the tools, right? We won't cover them. So prompt engineering is the art of communicating in English to an AI. So there is this very old thing in computers which is called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So if you ask a stupid question, you're going to get a stupid answer. So my son is starting to study software engineering. So in a sense, a lot of parents are afraid that his job is irrelevant. But at the same time, I think that as a software engineer, he will learn to ask the computer the right questions in the right format, in the right way. So the beautiful thing that all of you have today is that all of you can be prompt engineers, and we'll take an example of this in a bit. And there are some frameworks which are very simple. So the beautiful thing is you can use English, Spanish, whatever language you want, and talk to an AI and ask it the questions, which will make you the equivalent of the best graduate from MIT in terms of getting stuff done. And you can do that today, right? AI whisperers will soon be very much in demand. Yeah. Actually, that's true. You know that the highest paid job today in coding is somebody who knows no coding at all. It's prompt engineer. Okay, 10 minutes to go. So here is a framework for asking an AI a question. So you can say, acting as the CEO of Walmart, write an article about the rise of AI in supply chain and deliver that to me in a tabular format. So you have a task. You say, acting as George R.R. Martin, write a chapter of my book in the style of whatever, with the key character being Yoda from Star Wars, and show me the result in a text format, in a PDF, and add an image. So you can be very specific, and the AI will actually do that, and we'll see that in a minute. So yeah, you can, all those formats, and I can show you in a bit where AI can generate code which you can just paste into PowerPoint and you're done. PowerPoint is done. You can use structured prompt frameworks. So these are some 6 or 7 standard frameworks. Action, purpose, expectation. Perform this action to summarize this PDF with the purpose of understanding whatever it is, and the expectation that I will know enough to write a new article. Role, action, context, expectation. Context, objective, action, scenario, task. I won't go through this, but you guys can see it later. And you can always, once you have this, you can Google it and it'll tell you what to do with this. So use these structured frameworks to get better responses from AI. Then there are some prompt engineering strategies. Again, I'm not going to go through this. You'll have a copy of this presentation. You can Google each of these. So there is this temperature and top K tuning. These are all interesting ways to adjust prompt engineering. Too detailed for today, but you can Google each of these and they will help you write better prompts. So we were planning to have some computers here, but we'll do it without. And anyway, we're out of time. So I'm going to ask you, or I was going to ask you to use AI to complete 3 tasks, but actually I will try and do them myself. Okay. The first is a 15-chapter book plot about an alien who can manipulate wormholes. This guy is stuck on Earth. He's got a friend who's like a kid, and he's subject of an international competition to steal his technology. Right? Okay. So 15 chapters, and flesh out 1 chapter completely, and make an poem in the Tolkien world about this alien. Right. So that's what you want to do. 1. Second, I want a 10-chart presentation comparing US and Indian democracy. And the third thing I want to do is I have a new company called Fast Frameworks, and I want you to build a full website. So how long do you think this should take, these 3 things?
With AI?
Yeah?
10 minutes.
Can you do it in 10 minutes? Anybody? Any volunteers?
First one is easy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's change this one. So I prepared this, but instead of this, let's say let's create a non-fiction book, which is going to be talking about the golden rule, right? With a large chapter and then, right? So let's do this. And I was kind of generous to myself, 15 minutes. I have only 10 minutes now, so let me try and see whether we can do this. Oh, no. So we are going to use this tool called Designer. We are going to say generate with Word Genie. Okay, get started. Topic is the sales excellence. Okay, English, next. Add a theme, sales, business, using the golden rule. Okay, next. Sales excellence, B2B, retail sales excellence, digital sales excellence, insurance, startup. Yeah, okay, sounds good. You say next. Who is it targeted towards? Let's say managers in companies, gullible people. Okay. Here are some suggested titles. So anyone choose a title? Gullible people? No. Okay. Let's take this one. Okay. And here we go. So while that is generating, okay. So here is your sales excellence, B2B, retail. Okay. And in conclusion, then you say next, and then you say continue to choose a temp. Okay. So it's going to generate all the text in the next 30 seconds for this book. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Now, is it fantastic? Actually, I've done this before, and I can tell you that it is okay. So you can spend an hour on it, and you can make it really good. And then you say continue to choose a template, and it's going to show you a template, which we'll come back to in a minute. And you can just put your, it'll create a whole book, and you press, and it publishes it on Amazon. Okay, so that's one. We'll come back to this. The second one was, let's create a website. So I'm going to generate my website. So I'm a consulting, okay, business consulting. Next, a business located in, should I say Barcelona? Okay, why not? Next, name of my business, Fast Frame Works Limited. And here we go.
That was not prepared.
No, it was not actually. So you can edit this section. Okay, this is for free so far. Leadership team development. About us. View resources. Okay, you like my website? Okay, let's go back to here, and it's still thinking. So actually maybe I asked it for too much. So anyway, let's do the third one. So third one, I could do it on ChatGPT, but I'll show you a really stupid way to do it, which is I go to File, New Presentation, and I say ChatGPT PowerPoint, and now I can create from a topic, or I can just create from YouTube. So actually I've searched on, okay, so let's create from text. So does anyone want to tell me? So create a 15-page presentation on the difference between US and Indian democracy. Consider history, governance, and type of government, whatever. Add stories about Trump and Modi, and summarize in the last page. Add quirky facts about both countries. Okay, here we go. Let's see what it does. Continue. Okay, continue. Has anybody used this before?
No.
Okay. Okay, continue. This kind of gone crazy. Maybe this Trump and Modi thing has thrown it. Okay, meanwhile this one has okay, so let's find a book that is a bit like this. Yeah, more.
It was the first one.
Yeah, so it's a bit like cooking, right? While one is boiling, the other.
Is this copyright free or how does that work?
You can
you publish it and make money
So
and nobody asks questions?
So the answer to this is, what you do is you take this, and there is a specialist AI that checks for plagiarism. So you run it through that AI, and then if there's anything that's plagiarized, you change it.
Or reference it?
Or reference it, yeah. Yeah, so there you are. That's a nice enough book, right?
Nice side hustle.
Okay. Let's see whether PowerPoint has woken up. Ah, here we are. So here we are. US was Indian democracy. India, what's common? Comparison on governance, types of government, leadership stories, quirky facts. The US has more museums than Starbucks. Did you know that?
What was that saying? Starbucks got
So my point is that if you are not using AI, and I mean this is just a demo, and we can do as much as you want, but if you're not using AI to transform your personal productivity, you're missing a major trick, right? So these are the three things, and yeah. So the last few words of advice. I have 1 minute to go. Don't be too busy. All of us are very senior. Many of us have become directors and are used to directing other people. But that's not how AI works. You can direct AI like it's another employee, but you have to get your hands dirty. And nobody can do this for you. So it's not that you can delegate this to IT or marketing. Use AI to create a dramatic competitive advantage for yourself, but also for your company, right? Do not delegate. You can change your career, your life, your happiness. And you can do that if you just use these tools. It's a bit like, it's almost like we live in Hogwarts. All these people are teaching us all these magical tools and words, and we just refuse to learn. Just because we are so busy doing whatever we do. Help your company and your friends to become AI winners. If you don't do that, they will become killed by AI. Right? And that's important to know. I'm going to leave you with 105 tools which cover content creation, productivity, organization. All of these tools are like the tools. So the tool for the website, for example, is one of these tools. Yeah, so video editing, animation, production, productivity, email, presentation, scheduling, automation, chatbots, social media, voice, dubbing, email campaigns, SEO, website building, app design, transcription, resumes, logos, documents. Any document you have, you can put that in an AI and you can ask it questions. Singing, Suno.ai, try it, it's fantastic.
We'll make sure everybody gets this list linked.
So you'll get all this later. Thank you.